Today on Legally Yes, Prince Harry to possibly get a small settlement in his phone hacking case. And Chyna-Biermann's kidnapping claims, Kevin Costner's $250K a month in child support payments, Kesha and Dr. Luke settled their defamation case, and Joe Gorga is sued. We've got that plus so much more on today's Legally Yes. Hey everyone, welcome to Legally Yes. I'm Christina Garibaldi, and that is Rob Zambrano, partner at West Coast Trial Lawyers, filling in this week for Nima. Hi, Ron. How are you?
Hi. Thanks for having me again.
I'm so excited. There's a lot to break down this week. And Nima and I, over the past couple of weeks, have been talking about this really messy divorce between Chyna-Biermann and Kim Zolciak-Biermann. And it seems like it's just getting worse. So the estranged couple made 5 calls to police, one of which included an allegation of kidnapping. Now, this all happened on June 16th. The first call came in at about 6:30 p.m., but it was disconnected. The second interaction was classified as a POS domestic by the officer on the other line, seemingly obviously referring to a domestic dispute. The third try, Kim was identified as the caller. There was a brief exchange, and Chyna-Biermann was filing a kidnapping charges for his son to go to the rodeo after she dropped off their son with a woman named Elise. This is very confusing. So no further details on the alleged kidnapping were noted in the file, nor was there any record of whether he filed paperwork on the incident. Then she later called back and said that her husband stole her bag. This is just getting very confusing and lots going on here. So what do you think is actually going on between the two of them? And how does a phone conversation like this be made public? Does somebody leak this?
So this is a very typical evidence of a very acrimonious splits. Where they've taken it to the level which shouldn't be, which is involving public services like the police. It's a terrible waste of time, but this is what people do in these situations in order to drum up evidence to help their family law matters. And unfortunately, it's just a grand waste of time. And who really suffers are the kids, right? The kids are involved. You're saying this, you're saying that, and you're putting them in the middle. It's terrible. But yeah, the chance. What probably happened is that this call was leaked rather to the media because it's crazy. It's just a crazy story. It's just crazy. The kidnapping and the bag, like, why are we wasting time with things like this? There's more important things, even in the family law matter.
Mm-hmm. And like you said, people leak these conversations or make these conversations public because of evidence. But in this case, depending on which side leaked it, who looks better, who looks worse in this situation?
To be honest, I think they both look really petty. Yeah. The intent was probably to help one side or another, but it's such a petty thing. The public, you and I just shaking our heads going, this is crazy. I don't think anyone is coming out the winner like this. No one is taking the high road. Mm-hmm. One person is doing one thing, then they're elevating up to another thing and involving the police. I think they both look terrible, and they should really stop.
Right. Do you feel like police probably did a welfare check if a kidnapping call was made?
If they really believed it was a real kidnapping, but when you're identifying where the kid is being sent with the person's name, they probably deduce like this is really not a kidnapping thing. It's just a custody dispute. It's really when you call in and go, I don't know where my kid is. Right. I haven't heard from them. This is the last place I saw them. Mm-hmm. That's really what it is. But chances are, if on the information that we've read through the releases, is really he was dropped off at a rodeo with a woman I don't know. That's not really kidnapping.
Yeah. What do you think is going to happen in this case?
I think the family law judge is going to kick this can down the road and make them do a mediation at one point that will go nowhere. And they'll probably resolve custody first, the alimony next, and division of property at the end. And it's not going to be pretty. And that's why I don't do family law.
Yes, not going to be pretty. Something else that is not pretty is this mess between Kevin Costner and his estranged wife, Christine. So it seems like they're probably going to have to go to court and settle this one as well. So she alleges that Kevin is using public attacks designed to pressure her to move out without a temporary child support agreement in place. She claims that she can't leave her home because she doesn't have enough cash to maintain the family's current lifestyle. So when they got married back in 2004, they signed this prenup agreement, which stated that if either party chose to file divorce, they would have 30 days to vacate their shared residence. However, this was signed before she had children, and therefore the children's needs were not accounted for in this prenuptial agreement. She says she has no personal income, and that $1 million payment Costner made to her per the terms of their prenup was deposited into an account without her consent or knowledge. She says the filing, she has instructed the funds to be returned to him. He is now accusing her of racking up $95,000 in credit card debt payable to her divorce attorneys, a forensic accountant. Like, this is just getting really, really nasty. She's asking for about $250,000 a month in child support. So since the prenup, well, let's go back to the prenup. Since the prenup was done before the kids, does Christine have an argument that since she is moving not only herself, but the family, that she should have more than 30 days?
Yes and no. It depends how the judge wants to interpret the contract, whether the contract should include or contemplate how the kids are being treated. Because at the end of the day, every family law court and every court here in California will put the kids first. So if the judge decides to read, like, listen, you have to take account to the kids, and you didn't take into account the kids in the prenup, then yes, we're not, for purposes of this immediate need of where she needs to go, we're not going to really read the contract. Or what the judge can do is saying, you have $1 million, you can leave, and somebody can have temporary custody, or there can be a temporary custody arrangement until a more permanent one is done later.
Mm-hmm. So will Christine have to pay back that $95,000 that she charged on Kevin's credit cards? Or is she kind of doing that by, well, I mean, she's got a ways to go. She is trying to give back that $1 million, but will she also have to pay back that $95,000 as well?
Well, yes and no. What probably will happen is that'll be part of the line item that will be negotiated down the line when things are split, when there is a $250,000 a month demand, which probably, you know what? It's LA. It could probably get that expensive. I don't know. But that's probably what's going to happen. I don't think she's going to have to write a check for that amount. I think that's something that whoever's representing costs are going to listen. We're going to offset this payment with this debt that's already there, and maybe call it a wash or use it as leverage for somewhere else. That's probably what it's being done for.
Right. And like you said before, anything can happen in LA, but $250,000 sounds like a lot of money. But when you see the breakdown of the things that they have spent money on per month, it really does add up when they're spending almost $1 million a month to kind of sustain that lifestyle that they have. So is that a reasonable number for her?
If the judge is convinced that's what's needed to keep up the lifestyle, there is a very good chance that's what she's going to be awarded. And you and I will shake our heads because that's crazy money, but that is possible. If the judge is convinced, wow, that is really the lifestyle you guys had, he has to pay it.
Yeah, Ron, I hate to put you on the spot, but what is like the craziest amount of child support payment that you've seen per month? Like, that's mind-boggling.
The craziest I've seen is $30,000 a month, having to do with a very, a wealthy a doctor. He was a surgeon. But that's just for the kids. That didn't have to do with what the wife was getting. So it's unclear here whether the $250 includes child support and alimony, spousal support. But just for the kids, it was $30,000 a month, which is that's a lot of lunches. I don't know.
It's a lot of lunches. It really is. All right, let's move on to Keough and Dr. Luke, because this has been a situation that has been going on for years, and they have finally settled their defamation lawsuit. So they agreed to a resolution before this actually went to trial. Keough noted that only God knows what really happened the night that she claimed Dr. Luke assaulted her back in 2014, explaining that she really cannot recall everything that happened. So she previously accused Dr. Luke, like I said, of allegedly assaulting her in 2005 after she woke up in his bed sore and sick with no memory of how she got there. She filed a lawsuit against him, claiming that he threatened to shut her career down, that if she ever mentioned the alleged assault. He denied the allegations, fought back with the defamation suit against Keough. She dropped her lawsuit in August of 2016, but he proceeded with his. And like I said, this was set to go to trial. So do you think that that's why that this was settled? So it didn't get to trial because, like she said, she doesn't really remember what happened. So I don't know how good her case probably was.
Yeah, she said it herself. If she doesn't remember what happened and you are your plaintiff, it's tough to convince someone else what you think happened if you have a bad memory about it. That's absolutely the reason that it's settled. It's pretty cut and dry, and she must have been in a really bad place to try it, or in a very, very vengeful place. But sometimes that happens.
Do you think that she had to pay him? He had to pay her? Like, how does something like that work out?
Typically, there has to be some type of exchange. There doesn't have to be. That's just the way these things work. You negotiate something. I give something in order to drop the case. Chances are it's money. chances are I don't know, it could be a lot or a little, but chances are it was money in exchange for a dismissal or dropping the case. But typically those arrangements are kept confidential, so we can only speculate what that number is.
Yeah, well, like you said, pretty cut and dry, and luckily that they can probably just put this behind them and both move on. Speaking of settlements, it seems like Prince Harry may only receive a maximum of just £500, which comes out to be $637 in damages for one admitted instance of unlawful information gathering. This is in his phone hacking case that he has been, going back and forth. He was on the witness stand and things like that. So he is one of more than 100 people suing the Mirror Group newspapers, the publishers of the Daily Mirror, Sunday Mirror, over the allegations of the phone hacking. So MGN did admit at the start of the trial that they were in the wrong at in certain parts of this case, and they argued in court filings that Harry has failed to identify any evidence of voicemail interception against him, nor any other evidence of unlawful information gathering in respect to his private information. So are you surprised that Harry went to such great lengths for what could be maybe just $600?
Actually, I'm not, because this is such a public punchback by him and by extension his wife, that this is more of a symbolic, the goodwill that he's getting from this. And also basically people are going to be afraid of him. Like, he's not afraid to come out and punch back. He's not afraid to go into court. Remember, that was a big deal. Like, he showed up to court. He testified. He was able to withstand cross-examination. I think it's just a statement going, you guys tried to do this again. I will drag you in here again, and I will come in. This is not a bluff, because there's a lot of people who will bluff about it. He's like, I will not bluff. And I think what he's really doing is he's getting some currency later for people to look at him and go, like, do we really want to mess with Harry and Meghan, because they will come after us. And I think that is really what he was doing versus whatever he's trying to get monetary. Really, I don't think it was about the money. It was about the statement, like, I'm coming after you guys. I'm gonna use my celebrity, my status, to put you guys on a microscope so this doesn't happen again.
Yeah, well, that was kind of my next question. That's probably why his lawyers maybe agreed to take on this case, or even have him take the stand, because he's not going to get a lot out of this, but down the line, short term, probably not a good win. Long term, definitely a win.
Yeah, and I think he has a win now, because he's being so. I mean, he's to use the word. He's coming up and he's owning what he's been through. He's talking about experience, what he went through, and he's telling the public, and he's not afraid. And I think he's doing a good job for his own PR, and by extension, I think Meghan is also benefiting from it.
Yeah, don't mess with Harry, I guess.
No, don't mess with him. That's what he's saying.
Yeah, pretty much, definitely. All right, well, moving on to the Real Housewives of New Jersey, because Joe Gorga has been sued by his former lawyer for refusing to pay legal fees in a $6 million real estate sale. So the U.S. Sun reported that Joe's former lawyer is suing him for $3,337 in unpaid legal fees. So he said he was hired by Joe in December of 2020 to represent him in that $6 million commercial real estate transaction. And he said during the period from December 2020 to May 6th of 2021, the plaintiff performed legal services for the defendant in connection with the transaction. On May 14th, 2021 and June 9th of 2021, the plaintiff rendered itemized invoices to the defendant, like I said, for a total of about almost $3,500. So despite these demands, he failed and refused to pay any of the amount. They have reached out to him several times. He has not responded. What does a lawyer do in this situation then? I mean, like you said, you filed, you filed this complaint against him, but what can he really do to make him pay this? So,
lawyers, fortunately for us, we make the rules. We've created a mechanism to allow us to go get the money that we believe we are owed for the services we render. Now, $3,300 is not a lot of money, but there's a point to be made, especially when someone is dealing with a $6 million real estate. Like, listen, this is not a lot of money. If you're not going to pay me, I'm going to come after you, and they can do it. So typically what happens, you have to give them notice, like, hey, there's a fee dispute. And then once they have a grace period, you just come after them. The problem is that if the attorney wins, the attorney will get more than the $3,300. They'll get probably a penalty on top of that, including the cost and his own time, more likely than not, for having to collect it. So it is just a bad idea for people to ignore attorneys when they're saying, listen, you owe me money for work that I did, especially if he's not responding. It just doesn't look good. So he's going to get more than $3,300, even though when we're talking about it, such little money in the grand scheme of things. But it's really just to more make a point.
Right. Yeah. And I believe Joe has been accused of not paying people in business deals in the past. So hopefully he does kind of pay up. And when that happens, like, do businesses kind of do the same thing? They can go after him, like hire an attorney and go after him and kind of force him to pay back this money.
Yes. Well, I guess it's fortunate for the attorney. The attorney doesn't have to pay another attorney. That's the thing. Does a business want to spend $5,000 to collect $2,000? That's one question. But when the attorney is going like, I don't have to pay anyone to come after you. I'm not wasting, this is for fun. I do this for a living. That's the I guess that's the wall that Joe hit on this particular instance, whereas he can, when it's little amount of money, it doesn't make business sense to go after him. For the attorney, it doesn't cost him anything.
No, gonna have to pay up, Joe. Sorry.
Yeah.
All right.
Joe.
Well, Ron, it is always a pleasure. So good to see you. Thank you so much for stepping in and giving us your expertise as always. Much appreciated.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. For more news content and exclusive interviews, make sure to hit the sub, like, and bell button down below and visit usmagazine.com.